It's a Sunday kind of week, with an open road that leads to an untouched horizon, and a desire to travel to faraway places, to discover new landscapes, to escape from reality. I've been traveling far and wide for over a decade, and long after the physical spaces start to fade, what remains are the people and their stories. It's time to head out on another journey, this time in search of those stories. To seek inspiration, find thoughtful point of views, and discover a mindful way of living. And the best place to start is always the heart. I'm starting with Madhya Pradesh, the heart of India. The plan is to end up in the Malwa Plateau by the banks of Narmada after having travelled across the state east to west, starting in Bundelkhand. It's well after the monsoon months, but MP is still dressed in its lush best. Given that the state has the largest forest cover in terms of area in the country, it's no surprise that it attracts an equally large number of wildlife enthusiasts. And I'm no different. Like most travelers, my reason for visiting Bundelkhand is the region's national parks, the one place I'm happy to queue up at the crack of dawn. For the past few years, I have been keen to come back to Panna Tiger Reserve, this time with someone who knows this habitat more intimately than most others.
I came here in 1995. I was looking for some tiger habitat where I can look at tiger ecology, and I came here and fell in love with this, and since then I'm been stuck with this place.
Dr. Raghu Chundavat's pioneering research and scientific work on tigers took place in this very landscape. And before I start stalking the big cat, I'm going to get a crash course on their habitat.
We are now in the kind of heart of Panna Tiger Reserve. It's a fantastic view. It's very typical of the Vindhyan mountain ranges. So we have these flat plateaus and then escarpment, which creates gorges. So it creates very unique habitat for a variety of wildlife. So these are very vulnerable strongholds of tigers, and we need to protect these.
A word of caution, and rightly so. Panna has had a history of losing all its tigers to poachers. As a result, the number of visitors started dwindling. Dr. Chundavat explained how tourism is a very important tool in conservation as well as poverty reduction of the local community.
Right in the beginning, the environment has to be a topmost concern, because once the damage is done, it's very difficult to reverse.
In reversing Panna's tigerless landscape, one of the key contributors is a Bandhavgarh tigress called T1, brought in after the Panna population was decimated. I hear she's been on the move with her two sub-adults. And I'm promptly back for an evening safari to get a glimpse of the straps. Within minutes, there she is. Wait, there they are, T1's daughters. The two sisters are in their playground, while Tiger Mother is out to fetch lunch for the family. One shy, the other not so. It's going to take decades of providing a secure home to live, hunt, and breed in for this lineage of Panna tigers to have a stable population. For now, the curious cat decides to take refuge deeper into the forest to escape the cacophony of tourists. A cue for me to chase the setting sun.
It's when you witness a golden sunset in the quiet of the jungle, and birds chirping, the wind rustling the leaves, that's when you realize that there's a gem in the heart of India called the Emerald Forest of Panna.
Long conversations about the new generation of Panna tigers with my hosts Raghu and his partner Joanna. She's a wildlife filmmaker with 4 decades of experience in India. And that's the thing with wildlife holidays. They always spill out of the forest into tales exchanged over a fire.
I got in fairly late last evening, and just this morning as the sun came out, the place started coming alive. I can see textures and I can see ideas, and I can see Joanna.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very fine. You slept well?
Slept very well. I have to say, it's absolutely stunning, this place.
We have a very lovely location. Both Raghu and I come from wildlife background, so he had this study in the national park, which is the connection we had to this area for 10 years. And I come from a wildlife documentary background, so when the research project came to an end, we wanted to continue working with conservation, with the community around here that we got to know many years ago. So we thought a hotel would be a very good symbiotic way of doing that.
The word hotel just touches me.
Well, that's why we call it the Sarai.
Joanna and Raghu opened the Sarai at Thoria village for guests in 2010 to share this stunning space and the experiences they've gathered over the past 2 decades.
So this was one of Raghu's study tigers. She was a tigress that lived in this lower area. She was known as Ruby. And this was a guy, a young male, who had one tooth was broken, so we called him broken tooth. And they were consorting together. Looks like they're sisters.
A wholesome breakfast out in the open and endless chatter about this space. Joanna and Raghu and their architectural team have done an extremely creative job with landscaping as well as the use of natural building materials at this 100% solar-powered outfit. My favorite feature is this bridge, which of course has its very own story.
There used to be one very small crocodile that lived here for quite a while, but because the water goes down. Yeah, and we used to see it lying on this bank. In the off-season, when this floods, huge crocodile lying on the bridge itself.
No, right?
I mean, in the water, it was
So
underwater.
the water comes up really high, is
Yeah,
it?
and one year it came even over the top of this.
On another part of the property, the men are hard at work. Under Raghu's keen supervision, a local meal of puris with homegrown kaddu is being put together. But I'm not done with my tour of Sarai just yet.
We decided that mud is what we wanted to build. So we did it in the local way, which is basically just to slap on the mud 1 foot at a time and then let it dry. When we started, we decided we weren't going to use any forest timbers because even if it has a certificate, you can never be sure it's actually been legally felled. So we went for the woods that you don't normally use. What's interesting is how many people actually remark on the attention to detail. When they come, a lot of them are worried because there's no air conditioning and things, and they think it may be rather basic. Yeah. And it's nice for us when they realize that actually, you don't need all your double basins and marble floors and whatever to actually have all the comforts.
It's not that challenging if you get it right at the building stage.
And it's so much more appropriate for this climate, because this area it goes down to freezing, and then in the summer it can go up to 50 degrees.
But luckily, today is a perfect day for an alfresco meal. Freshly prepared food with local ingredients, an excuse to overeat, and the natural progression is an afternoon siesta.
Evenings in Panna have to be kept for Karnavati, or Ken as most people call it. It's one of the cleanest rivers in India, and this water body has just crossed 55 kilometers from the Panna National Park.
Ken in the evening is like a floating garden come alive, with an orchestra of wagtails. Ken in the evening is surreal. And I drift away towards day end, with wanting to push my privilege just a little longer than that of a fleeting traveler.
जंगल से देखो सबकी शान है बनी कंद मूल फल ई में उपजे मिलती है हनी ऐसे होते हैं धनी ऐसे आते हैं
I've spent the last few days exploring the Bundelkhand region of Madhya Pradesh. Just as I decide to move forward, the sound of the Bundelis holds me back. And I'm all ears.
जैसे कोई पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है ज़्यादा या जो किसानी करता है तो उसके लिए क्या है पर्यावरण ही सब कुछ है, जंगल ही सब कुछ है। इसी से हमें पैसा मिलेगा, लकड़ी बीनेंगे, खेती करेंगे और जो जानवर हैं पंछी हैं वो सब आएंगे तो पर्यावरण अच्छा रहेगा तो हमारा खेती बाड़ी भी अच्छी होगी।
कि वन जंगल से देखो सबकी शान है बनी कंद मूल फल ई में उपजे मिलती है हनी।
जैसे हमारे गांव में है पहले मोर बहुत कम बची थी पर अब हमारे यहाँ कम से कम 4 से 5 हज़ार मोर हो चुकी है। ये हम लोगों का प्रयास है, हमारे गांव का प्रयास है।
It's always small efforts such as these that eventually add up to make a big difference in preserving the land and its traditions.
हमारे यहाँ का तो ये माहौल है कि हर मोहल्ले में कोई ना कोई गाता है बुंदेलखंडी। हमने देखा कि आज जो कुछ ऐसी प्रथाएं जैसे मान लीजिए पाल होते हैं जो हमारे यहाँ गले के उनका जो गायन है वो एकदम से विलुप्त होता जा रहा है क्योंकि जो उनके जो पुराने लोग थे वो तो गा रहे हैं, नए लड़कों में वो चीज़ नहीं है। हम लोग वही चाहते हैं कि जो ये जो विलुप्त होने के कगार पे बुंदेलखंड की चीज़ें उसको हम आगे बढ़ाएं। उसके लिए हमने अपना एक चैनल बनाया, उसका नाम भी बुंदेलखंड से रिलेटेड रखा, बुंदेली सुपरस्टार।
Bundeli Superstars, one of the wonderful surprises that travel brings with it. On that happy note, I continue my journey westwards. Cutting across the state, I make my way to the Malwa Plateau, flanked by Vindhyachal Ranges in the north and Satpura in the south. There are several trains that connect Khajuraho to Indore, from where you must return to the road.
I've started my journey with a relatively short drive. In 2 hours, I'll get from the airport to my destination. And yes, 2 hours is a short drive in India. It's just the right amount of time to get a sense of the landscape. And from what I can see, it's a pretty good start.
The second largest state of India makes it hard to pick just a few places to visit. But on my pre-travel research, I found out that 10 river basins crisscross Madhya Pradesh's landscape. And there I knew I'd have to visit the lifeline of Madhya Pradesh, Narmada. I stopped somewhere along its 1300-kilometer long journey to the sea, on the north bank, in a quaint town called Maheshwar. Golden mornings with their secret windows, revealing how everything in this town happens by the water. Busy people, lazy boats, an odd traveller, and an inviting heart. Something quite enchanting about this little town, home to less than 30,000 people. The clean spaces certainly add to the magic. A spring in my step. A quick check-in. The pocket-friendly Labu's Lodge it is.
Room is right in the middle of the city on the road. This looks really interesting. I think worth an Instagram story? I think so.
A quick social media update on the way up, and clearly I wasn't prepared for this. Nor was I prepared for the heat. Of course, I'm in the Khargon district bordering Nimar. The southwestern region of Madhya Pradesh is one of the hottest parts of central India. The local favorite of poha and jalebi suddenly makes sense with this weather. Having tucked in on the snack, I'm drawn to the ghats for the cool breeze of Narmada. The distant sound of rhythmic clicking-clacking of innumerable looms set the pace for my day in Maheshwar. Maheshwari saris. The lustrous weave has adorned women miles apart from each other. But the journey for them all, always begins right here, in the tiny town of Maheshwar. It was as recent as the 1970s that the resurgence of what was then a dying craft took place around this very courtyard at Reva Society. I'm keen on meeting someone who's been part of this journey right from the start. And I've been told there's hardly a match for the number of yarns spun into stunning sheer fabric than those woven by the hands of Chandravati.
पहले 12 रूम थे, एक एक रूम करके डाले, 12 रूम चालू करे, तो सब लोग उनको फिर थोड़ा साल भर 2 साल में अच्छा लगा कि भाई चलो वहाँ पर अच्छा अपने को मिल रहा है.
Now joined by her son and one of her 5 daughters at the loom, Chandravati has proudly passed down her legacy. It takes about 4,000 threads of fine cotton yarn in its tana or weft and silk in its bana or warp, and 8 days of this relentless movement on the loom for a single pallu sari to be created. What started with just 12 looms, 4 decades later, has 70% of the town engaged with this craft, placing this fine fabric firmly back on the world weaving map.
Maheshwar as a weaving center is known in the Arthashastra. So it has great antiquity of weaving. The current, let us say, avatar of weaving is stemming from when Ahilya Bai was here and she bought weavers either from Surat or...
Richard Holkar, the co-founder of Reva Society, is carrying forward a family tradition started by the great Maratha queen, Ahilya Bai Holkar, in what was once her capital.
Ahilya Bai's spirit sort of moves here. And she is, of course, one of India's most illustrious women. Her being here, I think in many ways energized me to think really more concretely about the nature of heritage.
Under her patronage, weavers prospered and life flourished in this ancient town. The Kashi Vishwanath temple stands as testimony to her true devotion to Lord Shiva. Just as intricately carved scenes of wrestling matches and marriage ceremonies inside the fort walls depict life in another times. But stories are best told by those who've been a part of them.
When I arrived here in 1971, there was no green at all. It was still as a 19th century sort of establishment. So for a couple of years we had some serious restoration work to do here.
So it was really sort of bringing it back to
Yeah, to a living, you know, any of these places, if you spend 2 years and restore something and then forget about it, within 5 years it's going to go back to the condition it used to be in. It made so much sense to make it into a living place where people are living and enjoying, feeling the place.
Ahilya Bai's most prized possession was the fort she built, which is open to travelers today as Ahilya Fort Heritage Hotel.
The Marathas were not as grand a lot as, let us say, the Rajputs were. Generally, you think Palace Hotel, you look at the Lake Palace, or you look at Umaid Bhavan. It's quite ornate and very beautiful and so forth, but that was not the tradition amongst the Maratha. They have what is known as the Vada style of architecture, which is this, and basically Vadas are generally courtyards with built structures around them, and that is what Ahilya Bai did when she came here.
As the day comes to an end, the monotones of the sandstone begin to absorb the intricate carvings outlining the larger canvas of where I am, much like the thousands of threads that come together to create the fabric of this town. A town cradled by not one but two mothers, Mata Ahilya and Ma Reva. There's something quite reassuring about Narmada that gently flows by. Perhaps it's the steady beat of her heart. The hangover of a holiday is real, and the traces it leaves are long-lasting, if not permanent. This will be the last memory of my journey as I bid farewell to Madhya Pradesh.